Hello, world. I am super excited to be back and featuring another entrepreneur for this month, Solana Lewis. Hi, Solana.
Hey, how are you? I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to see you. Yes, thank you for your time. Before we get into, business conversation, I do want to introduce you a little bit. Is that all right?
Please do.
All right. So, this month's feature entrepreneur, Solana Lewis, is an IPF world champion in powerlifting. She is the owner of Strength Solutions Incorporated, where she is a powerlifting and nutrition coach. She is on a mission through her business to inspire women to get into powerlifting. I'm super excited to hear more about this. Solana is also a speaker and she is the host of the Power in Lifting podcast, where she educates listeners in sports sciences and elevates female powerlifters. She also goes into the schools in New York City public schools, where she spends a lot of time teaching students there how to also become podcasters. So many amazing things you are up to. Why don't you tell the world a little more about who you are and also the point of view of being a woman in business in something that many people think is for men, but isn't.
Yeah,
It's for everyone.
it's for everyone. So hey, thank you so much for the introduction, by the way. I was just saying to you beforehand when you were reading it to me, I was like, wow, I do a lot of stuff, I guess. Like
You
the
do.
list is kind of long.
Impressive.
Thank you.
Very
Um,
impressive.
but more about me, I think I would like to start with the powerlifting side because most people ask me, how did you find powerlifting? Because
Mm.
I've got to the top of the sport in it and became a world champion. And I never even was in the gym for weightlifting until college. Now I did sports my whole life. I did sports my whole life, but I never could even do a push-up. I was very, very weak. So I would do track and field, like swimming, soccer, like I did sports, but I didn't have any sort of idea of like lifting weights, being in the gym. No one introduced me to it. I went in the weight room once in high school because we had like tiny, tiny weight room, and our coach for track took us in, taught us like one exercise. I think it was dumbbell bench press. I couldn't do it, and that was it. I never went back in there.
Wow.
Yeah, so how I got into it, basically as a freshman, I got to college and I was no longer doing sport because I didn't do well enough in sports to get like a scholarship or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I knew that I loved working out, so I was like, okay, I guess I'll try running, and that lasted like a week, and that was horrendous.
Oh
That was
no.
horrendous. Like distance running, no, I can do like 200 meter, 400 meter. That's it. Like
Right. Not the
so
whole
then I was like,
cross country.
no, yeah, cross country is not for me. So I was like, let me try lifting weights because I saw people online and women who looked really cool and they had cool physiques. And I was like, how do I look like that? And they talked about strength training. So I got in the gym, and as a sophomore, my friend Rob was like, hey, have you tried powerlifting? You're getting pretty strong. I didn't know what it was. So I went to watch him compete at a meet just to support him like a month later, and I saw a woman doing it. And my eyes were open. I
Interesting.
thought, yeah, I like it looked amazing to me because everyone was cheering for each other. The environment was so like it was so elevated and lively and supportive. And the woman looked like they
Yes.
looked like they were having fun. And people have an idea that like powerlifting, like it has to be like super manly and jacked. Like no one looked quote unquote manly and overly jacked. Like they just looked like they were having fun, they were strong. So a week
Yeah.
later, maybe 2 weeks later, I got my first coach. I found a coach in a gym near me. I was like, hey, I want to try powerlifting because I saw that he lifted really, really heavy. So I thought, I think he might powerlift. And it was kind of history from there. I signed up for my first meet. He worked with me. 3 months later, I did my first meet. I won it. And then I went to a different federation, the federation to actually get to the IPF or to become to even compete in the world championships. I didn't know that federation did that, but I just joined it. He told me to. And my first ever nationals, I got second place as a junior and first place aged out because junior is 19 to 23. and she was turning 24. So they came to me and said, hey, she aged out, but you're next in line. Do you want to represent the world team at the world championship? And I was like, yes, yes, I do.
Why not?
So I've never been a national champion, but after I got offered the position, I went to the world championship in Calgary, Canada, and became a world champion.
Wait, so you skipped the national champion and just became a world champion?
Pretty much. I got second place and I got offered the position. I became a world champion.
I am so impressed. So you basically just jumped into this. You didn't even really overthink it.
Exactly.
You went with a friend, which is really interesting to me because I think our friends are very powerful. It's important who we have surrounding us. And you had the right people around you, whether you knew it or not. Um, and then you just liked the environment and you admired the strength of other women and you went for it.
Yeah. That's really what I did. I just kind of went for it. It really taught me just to, if you have a passion, lean into it. Because I
Mm.
didn't know what would come from it. I thought I would just have a good time, but it didn't just get me to the highest level in the sport. It changed what I want to do with my career. I was like, oh, I want to become a coach. Like, that would be
Mm.
so cool. And then I became, like, now, years later, I have a full-time business coaching and I teach nutrition as well. And I have a confidence that I never had because before powerlifting, I was a very non-confident person. I barely passed through school. Like high school, I
Okay.
almost fell out of it. I was told to go to a new school at the sophomore because I didn't fail out my freshman year, but my grades were just good enough to pass, but they said I couldn't come back. They're like, you're not going to make it here. You need to leave. So,
Oh,
yeah. And what's funny is my mom worked at that school. It was a private Christian school.
that's
My
funny.
mom worked there, and her kid had to leave because I wasn't smart enough, honestly, to finish the curriculum. It wasn't a lack of trying. I had ADHD, which just made it harder for me to study, and there was no one that really taught me how to study in a way that wasn't just like
Yeah.
sit down in the room and just learn it. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs have a different kind of brain
We
because
do.
the school system, yeah, the school system was not built for me to succeed the testing and stuff. So like I had zero confidence. I almost filled out the second school I went to. I think I had 2.2 GPA when I graduated, but I worked my butt off for that 2.2 GPA. Like,
Yeah. Well, what I will say about that, this is a whole different conversation, but I was an educator for 20 years, and some of my most brilliant students had learning disabilities, including ADHD. So I think that the way the system is set up, it makes people think they're stupid or think they're not smart, and that's absolutely not true at all. It's like the total opposite. It's like you're just too smart for the system, and you like just see through the bullshit. So,
no, I can relate to that because I definitely thought I was like just not a smart person. But now I look back and I'm like, no, it's just it was a system that wasn't set up for people like me. But I've made it so far in life. I'm definitely not smart. So
and I feel like, oh, it kind of leads to my second question, and it may not be, but I feel like that could, as a coach, make you very successful because I feel like a lot of people, when they reach out to a coach, are at a point where they're like, okay, nothing is working for me, and I feel like everything's failing, and like I need help. And you've failed or almost failed and struggled, and yet you ended up world champion and you just kind of like went with things. So, what is it that you consider to be the biggest factor in your success as a coach?
biggest factor in my success, I believe it's when I started coaching, I still didn't have the confidence of being really a coach because I was like, how am I going to get people to trust me to coach them? Like, I may have gone through a lot, but people didn't know. Like, it's
Yeah.
not, I didn't have the podcast. No one knew my name. Yes, I became a world champion, which was awesome. But back in, so it was 2018 where I won the world championship.
Okay.
I feel like powerlifting started booming online like 2019, dipped in 2020, and then skyrocketed in 2021. So 2018, like my name wasn't like blasted out for the world to see when I won. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So I would say number one was since I also had to work through a bad injury before I became my world champion. Like I got really badly injured and
Oh,
still got to go there to Calgary, Canada. I think being in a place where I've gone through pain, injury, and worked through it gave me a perspective of if you're at your lowest point, you can still push through, and I can help guide someone who has been in pain or frustrated or just thinking I'll never make it anywhere. I can take that person and help them progress because I've been there, and I also have a more objective perspective. When you're a coach, you have to, and so you're not in the struggle yourself of being in pain. So I can see an actual roadmap and show them how we can get back to being strong and feeling good.
Mm.
So I think like my pain, my physical pain, has helped me become a much better coach. And then also just to even become a coach, I had to get athletes. So becoming a coach, it helped me to be even more persistent because to become a world champion, you can't miss training sessions. You have to be on top of what you eat. You have to be on top
Right.
of your sleep. And I became a world champion at 21. So I was young, and most people are not at 21. You're not really like trying to not like, you're trying to go out. That's what
Yeah.
people are
Well,
doing.
how did you discipline yourself in an environment that was not, I mean, I remember my college years. I remember eating cereal and the food in the dining hall was not good. It was definitely not a nutrition plan for anyone, much less an athlete.
Yeah, yeah. How did I discipline myself? Once I decided I wanted, like, once I won my first meet, I knew I wanted to go all in powerlifting. I wasn't necessarily
Okay.
thinking world champion because I didn't know anything about the world championship yet. Because I became a powerlifter after like just seeing people in the gym, so I didn't like know the sport that well. But I was like, you know what, I want to do this, and I just changed my whole life to be molded around that being my number one goal. So I was like, what I have to do is study, come in school. I have to get sleep and I have to train. So I can't go out because then I can't train. I can't drink because then I won't feel good to train. I can't eat poorly, then I can't train. So I just built everything around my number one goal, which was be as strong as I possibly can get. I knew I wanted to make it far in the sport, but I didn't know how far I could get. I could get. So I think that's number one thing is goal setting. When you have a goal, you have to be relentless. And I just
Yeah.
became relentless very quickly.
I'm curious, were you living at home? I'm just like now like picking your brain because this is just like
Yeah.
fascinating because um when I didn't really have access when I was living in a dorm room to like good foods. I didn't have a car. I wasn't like I could take myself off campus. So like were you living on campus in a dorm setting or were you at home with your parents?
So I was home with my parents because it was way cheaper. I was commuting to
Okay.
school. So I did drive to Montclair State every day, which was only a 12-minute drive for me. And then I would
Okay.
drive home and eat my mom's cooking, or I was living at Chipotle, which you can do a lot with Chipotle. You can, because you
Can
can make
you?
your own. So I was
I could
definitely
see
living
that.
at
Yeah.
Chipotle and my mom.
Okay. They're gonna like that. They need to pay us for this interview because they just got a big, huge shout out.
Sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, so yeah, so you really had yourself in the right environment. You like optimized your environment in order so that you could stay focused and relentless on that goal.
I
And then
did. It's funny because at the time I still missed the that I wasn't living on campus because my friends did. But now that I look back, if I lived on campus, it would have been tougher because I would have been surrounded by people pulling me even more. And when I would get home at night, it was easier because like yeah, I get text messages to go out, but it's easier to say no. But if you're living on campus and like people are knocking on your door to go out, I don't know how it would have went because I didn't experience it.
yeah,
I can say today I would say no, but like I'm now 28, so
yeah. No, if you were living on campus, I would have been super interested. And because I mean, I guess you can get a hot pot and different things. I don't know. It was definitely, I think my 3 years at college were probably my worst food years ever. So that's why I'm so fascinated.
it's not shocking.
But yeah, so moving right along, we've been talking a little bit about habits anyway. I'm curious if with like the food and like the routine and being relentless. But if you could narrow it down to just two important habits that's in your experience for people because we are starting this is January, a lot of people are like it's a new year, it's a clean slate, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I'm going to exercise, I'm going to like shift my lifestyle of eating. What two habits do you think are most important for someone to develop if they want to be more fit and improve their nutrition?
Yeah. Number one habit is meal prepping. And whenever I say meal prep to someone who's never done it, I think I see their heart sink because it sounds like this super complex thing of I have to have 25 meal prep containers where I put every single and I weigh it out and then I put the right amount in each one and I label it and then you go in the fridge and it's like, oh look, this is Monday and Tuesday, and they're like, that sounds insane to me. But what I've learned with meal prepping is if you cook the proteins, the carbohydrates and vegetables you like to eat in bulk, you can do
Okay.
all of it for like 4 or 5 days worth of food in about an hour to hour and a half max, and you're good to go for a majority of your week. And so when I
Mm.
teach my newer athletes to me meal prep, I say pick 2 or 3 proteins. I do have vegetarian and vegan athletes too, so I understand it doesn't have to be meat. I'm a meat eater, but it doesn't have to be meat. But choose 2 or 3 proteins, cook a lot of it. Like cook like 2 packs of the chicken. Cook like 2 packs
Uh,
of of your tofu. Like so you make a lot of it and then you make a lot of your rice or your pasta or whatever your carb is, and I can do that in a rice cooker, so it's very easy to do. And then I make a bunch of vegetables that I just toss in the oven, so it's pretty minimal, like season, oil, in oven. So it's not a lot of me actively cooking. And then once I have it all in bulk, when I go to eat it, I just like toss it all together every day.
okay, so you're
And
not like putting it in containers and labeling it. You're just like pulling it out,
I
portioning it
pull it
onto
out
your
and toss it.
plate, heating
Yeah.
it up, and enjoying. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that
And I am
sounds
in New York City a
so
lot more
much better.
now. It's easier, right? I'm in New York a lot more now, so I do put it in a container, but it's not necessarily I don't have to weigh it and put the exact amount. I still just take out a container and then blend it all together real quick so I can just like have it when I go.
Okay. Yeah, you just mix it up. I like that.
Mhm.
So meal prepping is one important habit. What would you say a second? Just give people two good tips for the year.
Yeah.
Best.
I say treat your training sessions like a meeting, like a work meeting you can't miss.
Wait, say that again?
Treat your training sessions like a work or a business meeting you can't miss.
Oh,
Like I put it in my calendar, just like I have today. I have a Zoom with Beth from 12:15 to like let's say 1:15. I put it in my calendar. I'm not just put a random time. I'm not don't look at the clock.
sorry, I
Um
just saw someone I know.
I thought you were like looking at the clock. I was like, oh no, I'm not trying to give you a time. But I put in my calendar, I'm training from let's say 7 p.m. to 8:15. And I'm not gonna miss it. No matter what. Just like I didn't miss the work meeting, I didn't miss going to school to be with my kids for podcasting. I'm not going to miss writing my athletes programs. Like you wouldn't do that because you would lose your business. I'm not going to miss this training session. So if you put it in your calendar and really treat it like a meeting, it's going to help you take it
Mm,
more seriously. But you have to be realistic too. Don't put 7 sessions in for the week and you put them in at times that you barely might make it, but you might not, and then you feel like a
yeah,
failure. Like be realistic. If you're going from I only trained once a week, make it twice, not 7. Like just be
right.
really realistic with the amount you put in your calendar and then build from there.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. So you're scheduling your fitness routine to be a non-negotiable, basically,
Mm-hmm.
but a reasonable non-negotiable. It's like, would you take on three jobs all at once? Probably not.
Probably not.
So, well, you might if you have to, but
That's why I say. That's why I said probably not.
probably not. And you wouldn't really feel good for very long doing three jobs. So make it reasonable, like very realistic. Yeah. So you're setting yourself up for success. Um, cool. Now, I know we haven't talked about it here, but I've heard you speak because we did introduce you as a speaker as one of your aspects of your business. So I've heard you speak about how at one point you were a trainer at a gym and you were miserable and it didn't work out. But now you train women and men too, right? Or
Yes,
mostly
mostly
women.
women, but it is a blend of women and men.
Yeah. You train people to compete in powerlifting. You like are training people who are really serious in powerlifting. So I
Mm-hmm.
am curious, what is and you're happy. So what is the biggest mindset difference that you've seen between people who are just like playing around at the gym and people who are training to like go into IPF and be a world champion or some other type of competitive weightlifting or powerlifting,
Yeah,
sorry.
no, it's okay. People say both all the time. It's the goal setting. It's the very realistic goal setting, and it's always a SMART goal. I'm sure you probably heard the acronym for SMART, right? So it's specific, measurable, it's attainable, it's realistic, and the T is time something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so the goals are always very realistic, and we have a date on the calendar for the next competition, and it makes all the difference because we like my athletes, they don't miss their training sessions. That's very rare. If they do, there's a good reason for it. It's like, work happened because like a lot of my athletes, like, they're normal people. They have full jobs,
Yeah.
full-time jobs. Some of them are parents. Like, it's not like I'm only training people who like are me at the moment, where I am like single with cats and I do have my own business, so I can choose the time I train. Like, I have a bit more flexibility, and I fully understand that. But regardless of that, if you have a meet coming up, a competition is in 12 weeks, you're not missing a training session because you won't get ready for the competition. When it comes to nutrition,
Yeah.
if we're cutting down to be at weight, because it's a weight class sport, you have to be in your weight class, which doesn't mean you have to like lose a bunch of weight, but like you have to choose your weight class. If we have to be at a certain weight for the meet, you can't, oh, I took the week off and like, I didn't
Yeah.
take care of anything. I didn't meal prep. I just ate out every single day. Like, okay, cool. You're not competing now because you're not gonna make your
You're going
weight.
to be in last
Um,
place at this competition.
yeah, and if you change your weight class last second, you can, but that's just not the mindset you really have going into your training. And so I think the goal setting and then having a meet that no matter what, the date's not going to change, it makes all the difference because all of my athletes, I have a countdown from the day to tell me the meet. Like, I have one athlete, I just finished her update, and her next meet September of next year. It's called regionals, and it is currently December. And I'm like, okay, so we are 10 months out.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
we're 10 months out. Like, here's the plan. So they have no matter what, there's a number or a date in mind, and it really helps you. I will say, and I still have a lot of love for people who are just everyday gym goers because personally, I haven't been an everyday gym goer ever. I don't know how I would do with no meets coming up. It's been 10 years of powerlifting. I've never stopped. So I've always had a date I was looking at every
Um,
time. But for everyday gym goers, there was just a lot more of we set goals and then they would fall off of it. And they were realistic goals still. Like, I'm not gonna be like, okay, you're a mom of six. We gotta make sure that you're ready for this competition in 4 weeks, and you have to like not ever drink wine again and eat like super strict. But I mean, like, not everyone wants to do that. But even with realistic goals, it was just a lot more excuses. And I'm like, but you told me you had this goal.
yeah,
And
this is
so
your
you're
goal.
telling me you have a goal and you're not doing what we talked about to hit the goal. And that would just happen way more often.
Yeah, with the gym. So it was, yeah, I feel like when you really have a set purpose for something, like I know for like even writing my books, right? Deadlines. Like I have like a date that I want to achieve this by, and there is like a product or a vision that I'm anticipating at the end of like all those dates I've set for myself. So it's almost, I feel like for goal setting to really be effective or motivating, it has to be like some kind of concrete thing that you get as a gift. Like you get in 10 months to go to this competition and, you know, just put everyone else to shame.
Yeah, it makes a
So
big difference.
yeah, it is then just like I want to lose this weight or I want to do this or I want to start a business. Like, why?
Yeah, why? And then what's the goal? And then what's the date to achieve the goal? And if the answer is all I don't know, that person is more than likely not going to reach any of the goals they just said.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally see that. So, Solana, what does the next level of success look like for you? I'm curious.
Yeah, I just got off a call with my business coach, and Brandon Gaydores,
Oh,
and
yes,
we
I
just
do. He's
talked about
amazing.
I know. And we just talked about my 2025 goals. So I'm excited. I would say number one, since I'm newer to teaching kids how to podcast, that started this year for me, working
Hmm.
with Carl in the schools. And I kind of went from doing it like once a week to this past 3 months. I'm in a lot of schools. I'm in like 4 different schools. It should be like maybe five come January. So I want to impact as many kids in these schools as possible. I do have a goal of how many people or how many schools I want to be in or have some sort of part in. but impact as many kids as possible because some of these kids, like, we work in the Bronx. Some of the
Yeah.
schools are on the nicer end, and some of them are not.
Yeah.
And some of these kids I've learned they have no one telling them to do things in a positive way. Like they come in there and I can see like they're heavy, they're stressed, they're dealing with depression, and like the environment of the school, I can just tell it's just not like. And I was blessed. I went to like a small private school. Like they're going to a school where like sometimes the teachers don't care. Sometimes,
No, they really
like
sometimes don't. Yeah,
they really
that's
don't.
true.
So I want to impact as many kids as I can in a positive way and just speak life into them. I always make sure we do at least one podcast early on about what their goals are in life. And when they say I don't know, I dig into that because I want to know, like, no, you're 15. Like you probably have some sort of a goal, not like what you want your career to be when you're 50. Okay, that's a hard question, but some sort of
Yeah.
a goal. I want to work hard and really think about what you want to achieve. You got to start dreaming now. You got to start dreaming when you're in high school, when you're in middle school so you can get there.
And even when you're 5, I feel like sometimes, especially if the environment's hard, you're afraid to say what your goal is in case you don't make it. And sometimes you don't
That
make your goals, and that's also okay. You just get back on and go however you're supposed to go. But I think there's like a lot of fear behind it a lot of times, or embarrassment. Like someone's going to think that like I am too big for my britches, so to speak. That's like an old phrase, but like if I say I want to like, I don't know, be president, like, or whatever it is, right? Like, who are you? You're just like this person from this school in this neighborhood. But no, you are everything. Like, why not?
and that's why me and Carl we starts off the first day with telling our stories because I want them to see how, or his story's insane, but I want them to see how I came from. Like I lacked confidence. Like yeah, I did go to a private school, but I nearly failed out of it. The teachers were like, "She's not gonna make it anywhere." I had an insane speech impediment. People said I would never be understood, and I now speak on stages. Like
Right.
people said, like if you don't stop talking like you're talking, you're not gonna make it anywhere. And I'm a keynote speaker with a podcast, and I do a lot now with my voice. So
Yeah.
I tell them that story so that I can get them to dream bigger too. So I
Yeah.
really love giving them, impacting them any way I can positively and try to make it a comfortable environment to say crazy quote unquote things that they can get to.
Oh, yeah. I
Um,
love it. Yay.
yeah.
I'm glad that's
Um,
a place where you're at. Yeah.
yeah. And then along with that, speaking wise, I want to get on at least 3 stages. I was on 2 this year. I have 1 book for next year. So if I can be on at least 3 stages, that would
Okay.
be amazing. Um, my business, I love where I'm at with my powerlifting nutrition coaching. I hover around 30 35 clients, and that's very comfortable because that combined with being in the schools, I don't want to be that coach that has 50 or 60. There are a lot of coaches like that, which is cool, but like I thrive with giving my clients a lot of attention. So 30 35 is great. So I love where that's at. I'll just kind of keep that cruising, honestly. And then besides that, I will say on a personal level, I did start taking a hit with my sleep when I had to adjust my schedule to be in the schools. And I'm really big on teaching my athletes good sleep patterns, and I'm starting to fall off of it. So I'm like, no, I wrote down a goal is 8 hours of sleep every night. Like, no matter what, I had to build my schedule around you're sleeping first and then the rest of that schedule. Because I started to switch that, and that's not cool.
I struggle badly with that. I have been struggling with that sleep thing for quite a few years. I,
Is it having a hard time falling asleep, or is it like
oh
making the
no,
time
once
to
I go to bed, I like am out. It's like getting there. And
do
it's
bed?
like always like, yeah, I feel I just need to get better with my boundaries around that and really, like you're saying, like hone in on and build everything else around.
Yeah, that's a new goal. I'm the same way. Like I definitely start to let some boundaries fall off, and I'm like, okay, I'm averaging my aura ring says I'm getting 5 to 6 hours of sleep. I'm like, that's why I feel exhausted. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what do you feel, in your opinion, is the secret sauce many business entrepreneurs in general miss, or even like fitness coaches? But like, what do you think people are missing from their businesses? Is it sleep? Maybe.
It could be sleep. I would say setting your non-negotiables daily. I think that's a
Mm,
good thing. I think a lot of people, and I started out this way. I was like, okay, I have 100 things to do. Let me write down 12 things to get done on Monday, and then the week starts out poorly because I may have gotten 3 out of 12 things done, and now I'm sad, and now I'm just trying to catch up on that. But Tuesday had a list too, and it was never a realistic amount or a realistic goal. But if I give myself, for me, the number's three. I have three non-negotiables. And if
Yeah.
they get done every single day, I made progress. Even if I didn't get done the smaller list that is like it can be moved around. And so I think people don't plan out non-negotiables and then they struggle heavily.
Yeah, I agree. I used to do that. I used to have like a really long list on Monday and I would get through it. Then I'd be so tired from accomplishing 20 different things on Monday that like Tuesday would be a wrap. Like nothing would get
Mm-hmm.
done. So yeah, I usually go with like 3 to 5 of things every day, and it's so much better that way.
Yeah. Like
So much better.
for me, number one thing is like taking care of my current athletes. So I respond to every single athlete. They give me their information or their videos, respond to all of them, make sure they're good to go with their programming. That's number one.
Yeah,
And then, yep, my number two is got to be something school related. So either I contacted schools to make sure the contracts are good, or if I have to go to school that day, I just make sure I'm prepared for the school. But so prep for school,
yeah,
and I'll be good to go there. My three kind of changes, it changes
yeah,
around, but I will say one an easy one is like don't miss training, because if I don't
yeah,
take care of myself, my life goes to shambles. So I have to train. Because also I'm a
yeah.
coach. Like, why am I not? Why am I not train? And be like, yeah. So if this
Right.
training session that's not good, and I'm out here not training, like,
Yeah, I feel like you have to we have to practice what we preach, especially when we're coaches. Like it's very important. It's like hypocritical or some sort of lack of integrity if we're doing the total opposite of what we're encouraging others to do.
mm-hmm.
I mean, none of us are perfect, but yeah, you want to kind of like live a similar lifestyle to what you're encouraging others to do for it to be
Yes.
legit and for them to trust us as coaches. Yeah. I love it. This was so much fun. I'm so glad we had a good chat, Solana. Thank you so much for your time. But before we wrap, I want you to tell people how they can connect with you.
Yes, thank you for having me, Beth. I really appreciate it. Also, I was just telling you your TEDx talk was phenomenal, and I'm so
Oh,
thankful I came to see it in person.
thank you.
You're welcome. So my socials are on Instagram. I'm Solana, Solana underscore lifts, like lift weights, so LIFTS. I have my website as well for coaching. That is strengthsolutionsinc.com. And I have a podcast, the Power and Lifting Podcast. It's on Spotify and Apple and YouTube. That's basically it. I'm on TikTok, but like not enough for y'all to be contacting me there. So
Yeah, I mean, my TikTok is
like,
pretty shabby. It's like I post and then like 2 months later I post again.
I was doing great, and like I don't think I posted in 5 months. So I'm like, just go to Instagram, please.
Yes. Um, yeah. So is there any last insights you wanted to share before we wrap? Anything we didn't cover?
I thought we covered everything, but if anyone is curious about powerlifting and doesn't know where to start, I'll say the number one thing is make sure you're following a program. When I first started, I did
Mhm.
get a coach, but I have athletes who first started with just an online free program,
Okay.
and they were just consistent with that, and that helped them to learn if they like the sport or not. Because some people will be
Okay.
like, "Oh, it's not get in shape, so I'll powerlift." You can, but it is a sport, so you got to figure out if you like it or not, right? So if you can be consistent with the program
Right.
for at least, I would say 3 months, that's how you kind of know if it's like something you'll like versus okay, maybe it's not something that you love doing. Because it is about your 1 rep max, being as strong as possible. So
Yeah. That makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, you do want to know that you're not going to be miserable pursuing your goal.
that's true. Like every once in a while, someone will come to me and like, yeah, I'm kind of getting back in the gym. I want to powerlift. Will you work with me? I'm like, dude, this program is not even mine. I do have my own too now, and see if you like it. Like before you just like hop in, if you haven't trained or worked out in a while. Like just see if you like powerlifting first.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. That's really good advice. Like try it out first before we waste all of our time. Yeah. Thank you, Solana. All right. Well, happy New Year. I'm excited to see you on some more stages. Yes.
Me
All
too.
right. Have a good one.
Bye.